Phil, thanks for joining us. And let me read a little bit about your mission statement here. We are dedicated to aggressive quality representation and, when appointed by the court, provide a full range of criminal litigation service to our clients. Kind of explain what the Public Defender's Office does.
Well, the public defender defends people who cannot afford to hire their own counsel. We have a juvenile unit. We have a unit that does nothing but murder cases and death penalty work. We have a sexual assault unit. There's 115 lawyers working for the Clark County Public Defender, and it's our mission and our job to make sure that people are well defended and the Constitution is adhered to.
Are all your clients court appointed, Phil?
Yes, every one of them.
You talked a little bit about the Juvenile Division. Now that must be a very integral part of what you do. Talk a little bit about what happens in that division.
Well, the Juvenile Division, in theory, works much more rehabilitative than it does punitive. You're talking about kids generally from 14 to 17, and these are young people that you really can make a difference with. So we have 13 lawyers assigned to the Juvenile Division. They handle everything. I mean, certainly the more serious felonies go to district court and are handled in adult court, but most cases, the high percentage of cases, and even in dealing with youngsters, go to our Juvenile Division.
Yeah, talking about some percentages, I think I read somewhere where you that you have tabulated that some 30 to 40% of your indigent clients are also mentally ill in the system. So that must create some sort of collision between legal situations as well as medical and mental issues.
Oh, it absolutely does. One of the areas where our community is most lacking is in mental health. We get parents calling us daily saying, my son, my daughter has this problem and no one's helping them, where do I go? And the fact is, until a court appoints us, until a crime has been alleged, and until a court has appointed us, there's not a lot we can do. And it's incredibly frustrating. Parents reaching out for help, and there just are not the facilities in Southern Nevada or anywhere in Nevada to really help people. Now, in terms of our clientele, yeah, we do estimate between 30 and 40% of our clients have a serious mental illness that has either not been diagnosed or, even worse, not treated after it was diagnosed. It's very hard to get mental health help in Southern Nevada. There's very, very few beds, essentially none. The county worked very hard to push the state to open Stein Hospital, but that's a number in the 30s, and we have thousands who need the help. So it's a real problem for us.
Institutionally, how could some of those problems be eliminated, in your opinion?
If the state did its job and established more mental health facilities, so when that parent calls, there's a place for us to send someone before they commit a crime. It is not unusual for a schizophrenic child to lash out at their caregivers. I mean, that's most likely who they're going to lash out at. And so I would love to see the state step up and create more hospitals where people can go for short-term treatment or to get the type of medication and the aftercare, which is so important. I mean, just diagnosing someone doesn't do any good. Making sure that the right medications are prescribed and taken, and have someone, a social worker or someone, to follow up with them is just critical to public safety and to our clients getting the proper treatment.
Phil, I've seen you and a number of your deputies in action in court, and recently one case that really became news was some very zealous representation from one of your attorneys, and it resulted in her being admonished by the judge, being held in contempt of court for a second, and being put in handcuffs. Talk a little bit about this situation and how this could have been alleviated.
Well, look, I've been a lawyer for just about 38 years. And in most of that time, I either worked for a DA's office or the public defender's office. And it's the first time in my 38 years that someone I worked with was held in contempt. That shouldn't have happened. I mean, we need to advocate for our clients. It was very clear that this young man was going to get 6 months in county jail. He had done most of what he was supposed to do. It should never get to that point. The courts have to understand that we have to show our clients that we're fighting for them. We need to do that. It's what the county is paying for. I do think it would have been less of a problem if the court would have turned on the JAV system. The county paid a lot of money to put what's called JAVs, which is a recording system, in every one of the courtrooms in the RJC. and they're on at the will of the court. They shouldn't be. Because just like I've advocated that Metro put on body cameras, and they are, I think that in court the video should always be on. And maybe it'll show that my lawyers did not act in a way that I would want them to act. Maybe the DA didn't act in a way we would appreciate. But it gives us all a chance to relook at it. And for those judges who do have jabs, I can tell you at least a half a dozen times over the course of the last 10 years that we've been using jabs, I've had judges come to me and say, Phil, I want you to look at this video. And we've gone through it. And sometimes I thought the court was right, and sometimes I think our lawyers have been right. But it gives us all the chance to use those moments as learning moments. Because I can't listen to how people spoke to one another that day doesn't do me any good. I mean, I know what the report says, the reporter says, but they're both talking over each other, right? And I know they were doing that. And so if there was a video, one, I think we could look at it and learn from it, and two, I think people behave better when they are being filmed. She did her job. She's a fighter. I know this young woman. She's always respectful to everyone. This was a young man who's facing a long time in jail. The DA's office was advising the court that this guy had committed another crime, but we had no notice of it. And so she was taken off guard. She was just asking for proof, and she did her job.
Switch gears a little bit. You've been in the office for some 26 years, 12 as the public defender. You recently had a chance to invite a stranger back there, of course not a stranger to anyone that's been in Nevada for any length of time, former Senator Richard Bryan, who actually was the first public defender in Clark County. That was a fun experience.
It was a great experience. I mean, I have great respect for Senator Bryan. I mean, he's done so much for the state as governor and as senator, and of course, most importantly, as the first public defender. But he's just a wonderful man to learn from, and a role model, and just a tremendous guy.
Why did you think it was important for him to spread his word to your staff?
You know, you said jokingly a minute ago, a stranger, and unfortunately, we have a very young office. We have a number of people who've been hired since the time Senator Bryan left the Senate, and certainly I wasn't even in the state here. I was in northern Nevada in the Tahoe when he was governor, and so it's really important to our youngest lawyers to learn about the history, to learn about the legacy that they're now a part of, and to know that they too can run for Congress or do whatever they want to do from this office.
What are some of the biggest changes you've seen, either from that era or certainly from your era to today's days in the public defender's office?
Well, certainly the growth is incredible. When I started here in 1992, I was a new position and we had 42 lawyers, and now we're at 115. And so just the volume of cases, the volume of people in the system, you know, I can't imagine how much fun it must have been in Senator Bryan's time when you knew everyone. Everyone was friends. And it's not that way now. It's much more impersonal. The behavior that we talked about before, I don't think that ever would have happened when everybody knew each other and grew up together and learned to be professionals together. So that's the biggest change I see. Just like everything else in Clark County, we just grew so fast.
Let's talk then a little bit about the future. You've talked about many of the challenges and some of the problems or situations that you do have. If you had unlimited resources, how could you make the public defender's office run even better?
Well, we put in a lot more money into social workers and in hopefully as a whole system. It's not just the public defender's office. As a whole system, put much more money into specialty courts, into mental health courts, into veterans court, into drug courts, to make them true rehabilitative courts. We've come away from that a little bit in drug court, and it bothers me a lot. So what I want to see is us getting to the point where we stop crime by stopping drug abuse and helping those who are mentally ill. I mean, there are some people among us who are evil, and we know that, and we have to take them and defend them the best we can and hope they don't do it again. But there's a certain amount of people who are just simply mentally ill, or especially now with the biggest problem with drugs being prescription drugs. So many people come by that addiction legitimately. they have a surgery, they get in a car accident, they take opiates, the next thing you know, you're hooked on them. And I think if you talk to people at Metro in the drug enforcement, they tell you our biggest problem right now are prescription drugs. And so I would like to see us do much more in terms of trying to treat those problems as opposed to just simply isolate them in prisons.
Great information. Thank you very much for spending time with us.
Randy, thank you.